Howdy, and welcome to Tales of Fantasy. I am author Brian S. Pratt, and I'm going to tell you a story. Basically, what this is, I'm just going to tell a story right off the top of my head. Normally, this one here actually has some basis in my books, so those who are my fans might actually recognize where this is coming from. Only it's not what's in the book; it's the other side of what happened on the book in the books. But before I get started, if you like what I'm doing, like it, subscribe. I can always use more subscribers. Also, if you're interested in this story, if you're interested in my way of telling a story, and you might be interested in my books, look in the description and you'll see a link to Amazon to download the first book in the Morcyth Saga entitled The Unsuspecting Mage. That's actually where the story is coming from. And then you can just download it for free. Try it. You can try it, and then if you like it, continue and buy the rest of them. Well, anyway, so this story is about a young boy living on the streets of a city called Bearn in the kingdom of Cardry. It started his story. His earliest memory is being beaten by his uncle. He has his parents. He has a vague memory of his mother, but she was killed when he was very young, and then he was with his uncle, who was just a right nasty piece of work, and he lived with him for several years until he was caught by the town watch because he was no good, and he disappeared. Most likely got killed, most likely got executed. Anyway, this kid, MIko, has no recollection. At about 10 years old, he has nowhere to go and no other family or friends that will in the city or even nearby. So he's been on his own for several years now. Now the nice thing is he was living on the streets for about a year when he got with some other kids. And well, when you're living on the street, sleeping under porches and in cellars and wherever you can go, you got to have friends. So he got with some older kids, and they taught him how to pickpocket. They taught him how to steal, because if you got no money, you got to eat. So they would set up marks, and MIko would go and sometimes he would lift purses. Sometimes he would be the one to cause the distraction. And they were setting up this guy that looked like he had some coins on him. He had a nice blue vest, kind of a felt hat. He was dark complexion, bald, and he was walking through the bazaar one day, the marketplace, and they decided that's him. We're going to do it. MIko, you're going to go. You lift his pocket while the rest of us distract him. And then, see, once he picked it off, he would hand it off to somebody else. And then by the time the purse or valuables left the marketplace, it had passed 3 different boys. So that way, it'd be, if he got caught, he wouldn't have it on. He says, it wasn't me. Anyway, so this guy was, this man was standing at a merchant stall looking at leather belts. When MIko comes up behind him, and he could see in his pocket the little tassel that they used to close the coin purses back in those days. So he reaches out his hand and grabs it, and he starts pulling it out. When this guy, lightning quick, boom, grabs his arm, turns around and says, "What are you doing, boy?" MIko just turns pale because he knows what happens to people who get caught thieving. Their hands get cut off. I mean, if you're right-handed, they'll take your left hand first. But he didn't want to lose his left hand, And he was in a panic because it didn't matter your age. 5 years old, 95 years old, doesn't matter. You're caught stealing. The law is the law. They don't make exceptions. And he was in a panic. And he says, "What?" And he says, He says, "Well, you know the penalty for trying to steal my coin purse, don't you?" "Yes, sir. So why did you?" "I'm hungry. And I'm sorry. I won't ever do it again." He started crying. He was young at the time. Plus, they found out, the boys back then found out that if you're kind of youngish, as Michael was at the time, if you cry, people that will soften people's heart. But apparently, this guy wasn't buying it. He says that's no reason to steal. Come on. And he starts dragging away. Michael's freaking out, right? He's looking around, but all the other boys, they're gone, right? They just abandon him because they don't want to share his fate. Because they know this guy's taking him to the constables, to the town watch, and then from there to the jail, and probably in a day or two, no more left hand. So where the tears may have been fake before, panic was starting to set in, and this guy had an iron grip. Try as he might, he couldn't release the grip. And so this guy in the blue vest and crazy hat and pants drug him through the streets. Didn't say a word. Finally came to a townhouse, dragged him inside. He said, "Oh my God, they're going to kill me in here." And what he did was he had him sit at the table and he gave him a plate of food. He says, "Here, don't be stealing anymore." And he fed him. And this was really weird behavior. This has never happened before, right? No one's ever repaid having their purse attempted to be snatched with kindness and food. This is weird. And the guy sat down opposite him, and he says, "What's your name?" He says, Michael's got his feet. Michael, he's chugging it down because he doesn't know how long this is going to last. And right now, he's thinking about how to get the hell out of there. And this guy says, "Well, Michael, I tell you what. If you don't steal anymore, I'll give you a meal a day. You come here every day, and I'll feed you one meal a day. It won't be much. It won't be fancy, but I'll give you something." And Michael's just, yeah, right. Mm-hmm. This guy's some kind of freak or something. So Michael says, "Okay." He didn't take, Michael was smart enough to know that he didn't take him to the town watch. He didn't take him to have his hand cut off. He fed him. This is weird. This is bizarre. But hey, if this guy's crazy if he's a nice crazy, Michael's more than happy to take advantage of it, right? So he fed him, and he says, "Be back here tomorrow. I'll feed you again. But if I ever hear you stealing it, I'll come after you. You understand me? You steal again, I will come after you." And Michael could see the steel in his eyes and knew the guy wasn't lying. But why was he doing it? This made no sense. Now, so Michael goes back. The next day, well, when he left the house, it wasn't long before his buddies showed up because they watched where he went. "What happened?" He fed me and explained the whole thing. He says, "Man, that guy's crazy." I know, but food was good. You think he'll share? Man, I don't even dare ask. I tried to steal his purse. And so him and the others left and went about their business. And later on, that they were going to set up a mark, right, to steal some more. And that guy's eyes was right there. When they were talking about it, the guy's eyes were just burning into his brain. And he knew, don't ask me how, but he knew that if he stole again, that guy would come for him. And so he said, I can't do it. That guy's will find me and kill me if I steal again. Well, how is he going to know? I can't take that chance. Something inside of MIko said, I can't take that chance. And when you live on the streets, you tend to trust your instincts, because that's really all you have left. And his instinct says, you cross this guy and you're in serious trouble. So the other boys went off, and they got their mark, but they didn't share with MIko because he didn't participate. And when he went, and so he didn't have anything to eat that night. But he had ate well earlier, so that wasn't a problem. Well, the next day, about the same time as he had the meal before, he shows up at that guy's residence. He kind of stands outside. He didn't knock, but he really wasn't sure if this was a legit thing or if it's a trick the guy's playing. But the guy opens the door, lets him in, feeds him again, and he says, "You got a place to stay?" And Michael's going, "Oh, okay, here it comes," because he's heard about these guys, right? Who like boys. He says, "Well, I got a place with the other guys. Well, I'll tell you what. I got a shed out back. It's got a cot in it. You can stay there if you want to. It may not be the warmest in the wintertime. It'll be sweltering hot in the summertime, but it's dry, it's safe. So if you want to, you can sleep there." He says, "Why are you doing this?" "I have my reasons." And Michael's, "All right." I'm getting food, and I got a place to sleep now too. So for a year or so, this continued on. Well, after about 6 months, the guy started having him run errands around town, and would give him a copper every time he ran an errand. It wasn't much, but it was honest work, honest pay. He got free food, free place to stay, and he had a copper a day. Now the older kids, his buddies, they were getting jealous of him, and they weren't having anything to do with him. So his life became isolated, and he didn't really like that. And he thought about going back with the boys, because he doesn't want to be alone. I mean, this guy, he seems nice, feeds them, gives them a place to stay, and he has him run errands for him. Seems nice, but he's missing companionship. He's missing someone to talk to, because this guy really doesn't talk to him. And he doesn't seem to be around. He's around at meal times. Well, actually, for the first month. After that, the food was just there on the table. You know, Michael would come in, there'd be the food, he'd eat it, and he'd never see the guy. And that was just odd, right? Never saw anybody in that house. But there was always food on the table, and there was always that cot in there, which he didn't stay there all the time. He stayed there periodically, because he still wanted to hang with the boys. Well, this went on for 2 years, and Michael just got used to the routine, you know. When he would be sent on errands, the guy would appear. The guy would be in the house, or he'd find him on the street and say, "Look, I need you to do this, and deliver this to here, or go buy this and bring it back to the house, set it on the table," or whatever. And that's the only time we really ever saw him. And a couple years later, a couple years. Well, Michael didn't have a great time on the streets, aside from that, because, well, he still had to kill time. And what's there to do when you have nothing, right? So anyway, there came a day when this guy, he never gave him his name either. Never introduced himself, never said who he was or anything. Michael just called him the food guy. So one day, late in the day, the guy shows up. Michael's out running with the boys, and he sees him. And the guy's staring right at him, so he knows he's got a job for him. So he says, "I got to go, guys." And everybody else knows the whole routine. So they say, "Okay, Michael, we'll talk to you later," right? So the guy says, "I need you to take," he's got this box in his hand, "I need you to take this over to the gate to give to the guards, okay? Ask for Corporal Reggie and give him the box." All right, so he takes the box. The guy gives him his copper, and he runs to the gate, and he finds Corporal Reggie. I mean, he knows who he is, obviously. The corporal is one of the guards who check people coming in and out of Bearn, and gave him the box. Says, "This is for you." He says the guy didn't seem to understand what it was, or he says, "Well, thanks." It seemed like a mystery to him. Anyway, Michael didn't care. He was paid to deliver, so he delivered, and then he took his coin, flipped it, stuck it in his pocket. And then as he's walking by, there's this guy who just came through the gate. And one of the ways the kids get money there in Bearn is by being guides for people, newcomers who don't know where to go. "Hey, you give me a copper and I'll take you to where you need to go. I'll make sure you find your way, so you're not just hunting or whatever. And a lot of the boys are shouting out that they, places, because if boy, certain places have the boys at the gate, so that way they'll bring people to their business, and then the boys will get some coins, right? So they're all hawking certain things. The guy said, "No, I don't want any of that. I don't want any of that. I don't want any of that." And Michael stops by and kind of looks at and sees what's going. And the guy in question, he's about 17, 18, brown hair, medium build. The guy says, "I'm looking for the flying swan. Can anybody direct me?" And Michael goes, "I got it. I can." Why not? It's easy money, right? Just take him to the inn, and he gets some coins. He's there anyway. And the guy points at him, says, "Okay, let's go." Other boys are irritated. They cast him dirty looks, but that's just part of the job. That's just part of the whole thing there. Some boys get taken, some boys don't. And so this guy says, "All right, let's go to the Flying Swan." And so Michael takes him to the Flying Swan. And the guy's kind of quiet, doesn't really say much along the way. And then when he gets there, he gives him a silver. And he says, "What? I've never had that much before. Thank you." He says, "No, not a problem." I said, Michael goes, is there anything else you need? I'd be happy to show you around. If you're new here, I know where everything is. And the guy says, that might be helpful. How about this? You meet me tomorrow morning, and I'll give you a silver a day, and I'll give you a meal. Be here bright and early. And Michael goes, "Great." So okay, I'll see you then. I'll see you then. So Michael leaves, and he doesn't tell anybody about what's going on, because you don't share that information with people, because if they know you're going to get a silver or that you got a silver, you won't have that silver. So Michael kind of kept that quiet to himself. Now, the rest of the day, just regular boy stuff. He went to that guy's house for the meal, and he didn't have it. There was no meal there. Very odd. He thought that was very odd. 2 years, never missed the meal. But wasn't there. So he slept in the cot. And bright and early the next morning, maybe an hour after sunrise, right? Because he knows travelers don't want to get up too early. And if you show up at the crack of dawn, they're going to get mad at you, and they're probably going to fire you. So he waited for as long as he could, right? And he went in there to Brockman's or to the Silver Swan. Now one of the boys there see him enter, and could see by his dress that he was one of the street kids. Dirty, clothes is groungy, hair all a mess, smelled. And the guy says, "What do you want? You need to get out of here. You have no business in here." He says, but the guy here who I let here yesterday said he wanted me to show him around today and to come back. And he goes, "Who? Who would want you?" And so he gives a description. He goes, "Okay, well, we got someone like that." Okay, I'm gonna go up there. You follow me. And if he doesn't know who you are, I'm taking you to the constables, because you have no business being in here, and I don't know what you're up to. So I go, "All right." So Michael follows him up. He's not worried, because the guy told him that to come. So Michael goes up the stairs behind this worker, and the worker goes, "Bum, bum, 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 bum." Nothing. Bum, 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 bum. And from the other side, you hear this weak voice. Says, "Let's go away and let me die." It says, "Sir, we got this kid here who said you wanted him to come today, this morning. Said his name was MIko." Oh, heard a groan. Heard some footsteps. The bolt slid, door open, and this guy standing there, man, he's just hungover. He's hurting bad, right? He tied one on the night before, and he's hurting bad. And he goes, "Okay, fine. Bring us up some food for us while I get ready." And I said, "Yes, sir." So Michael comes in. He says, "Are you okay?" No, I'm not okay, but I'll live. I'm sure this is only temporary." So Michael gets in there and waits for him to dress, and then the food comes, and this big plate of food right there, steaming, smells so good. Michael's stomach starts nodding, right? Because he didn't eat. And the guy says, go ahead, take it. You know what you want. And man, he's just chowing away at him. Well, the guy's name is James, for those who don't know. I'm sure some of you probably already knew. Anyway, James is there. He's saying, "Oh, slow down, man. If you're still hungry, we can get more. There's no problem." And Michael slows down, but he doesn't stop until all the food's gone. Right? That's what you do down the street. You just eat and eat and eat and eat and eat. Well, so Michael says, "Well, where are we going today? Where do you want me to take you?" And James says, "Well, do you know a place where we can get some paper? Like a scriber's shop, where we can get some parchment, some quills, ink, that sort of thing." What do you want with that sort of stuff? Well, I like to keep notes about things. So, all right, well, there's Brockman's, over by the Temple District. We can go over there if you want. And he says, that's fine, that's great. So Michael finishes the food. James had enough, right? He had enough. He wasn't stuffed. But I mean, Michael was even sopping up the gravy with the last of the bread. So they headed out, and they go over to Brockman's. And James haggles with the guy or tells the guy what he wants. I want a carrying case, some parchment, and stuff like that. And so Brockman puts it all together, gives him a figure. James hands over the coins, grabs the stuff, or says, "Can you have this delivered to my room at the Flying Swan?" He says, "No problem." Brockman says, "No problem." So they leave, and Michael's going, "Man, you didn't even haggle with the guy. Didn't he seem happy that you paid so much for that?" James goes, "Really? I've never really haggled before." "What? Where have you been that you've never haggled before? You better start learning this or you're going to be out of money." "Oh, well, I come from a long ways away and we really don't haggle there." And so as they leave, it says, "Is there a candy shop?" James asks, "Is there a candy shop?" "What's candy?" "Oh, just something I like back home. Tarts, bakery." "Oh, yeah. We got plenty of those. We got one over here that's really that I hear is famous for the tarts. I never had it before." And so they go over to the bakery, and James buys a dozen tarts. And Michael's never had a tart before, but he loved them. He thought that was the best thing ever. I mean, if this is what candy is, he's all for it. And so they finish off the tarts because James enjoys them too. The tart is basically a pastry with some jelly on the inside. That's really all this tart is. And he did try to haggle. He got her down some coppers. And Michael says, "Well, you did okay, but if you do better, you need to practice this because you're not too good at it." And then, so they're walking through town. And James is eating his bit, they split him 6 and 6. Well, actually James has 4 and Michael has 8, and Michael polished them all through. Even after all he ate at the end, he still ate all these tarts, right? So, and then all of a sudden, Michael sees this group of boys, not his group of boys, another group of boys, older boys, like 16, 17-year-olds. And they see him, and he turns down the street and starts walking faster, and James keeps up with him. And then he glances over his shoulder, and the boys turn to follow him. See, what happened was, a month ago or so, something was stolen, and the leader of these boys was accused of stealing it. And the rumor was Michael was the one that told the authorities, squealed on this guy. He didn't, but that was the rumor. Probably started by the guy who actually did. And so these boys have had it out for Michael, and Michael starts speeding up even more, right? And James is kind of talking about, says, "What's the hurry?" He says, "Oh, we're taking a shortcut. Don't worry about it. And then he sees the boys behind, and then he breaks into an all-out run, and James is doing his best to catch up with him. He doesn't understand why this boy's running, right? And says, well, what's wrong? We got to get out of here. We can't let them catch us. And James sees the boys, and so he's running with MIko. He doesn't know why, but if he's with MIko and these guys are after MIko, he's going to get the crap beat out of him, right? So they run through, they dodge down the side alley, and they run into this building, slam the door, and then bam, the boys hit it from the other side. And James casts a spell to bind the door, to hold it. But the boys are hitting it, and the wall around the door is starting to break apart. He knows it's not going to last long. He says, and MIko's standing there going like, you're a mage? He says, well, we'll talk about that later. We got to get out of here. This is not going to hold. And so MIko found the entrance to the sewers. And they ducked down in there and managed to either lose the boys, or the boys did not want to go into the sewers for whatever reason. Anyway, they race into the sewers and says, what are we doing down here? Says this. MIko goes, man, this was the only place we could go, and we can get up further down. I know a spot. And so it smells terrible. I mean, absolutely terrible. In fact, at one point, James slips on some goo and falls into it. I mean, he's just coated in this nastiness, right? And MIko is just really unhappy because he's thinking, this is it, man. I just got this guy easy money, and I lead him to the sewer, and he gets dunked in it. It's over. So now they're they're walking, and MIko's saying, the people who are down here, we really don't want to meet, because they're worse than the ones up top. Well, James says, I figured that. Usually sewers are full of smugglers and thieves and murderers. MIko says, you got that right. And then they come to a set of rungs leading up, but they're clean, right? A lot of the other ones were slimy because of the muck and the humidity down there and everything else. But these were spotless. And MIko says, James goes, we should go up there. MIko goes, no way, we're not going up there. Do you know who uses these? I don't know where that goes. I know where one further down goes, but this one here, I don't know. And James goes, okay, fine. We'll continue down. So they go down a little further, and all of a sudden they hear a voice is coming. And then there's a light appears ahead of them out of the dark. Yeah, because they're in the dark, by the way. So James is kind of worried about it. He remembers that when further a little ways back, see, he was running his hand along the side so he kind of keep track of, find out any rungs coming or maybe new passages, because it's total blackness. He felt a crack, and it was pretty wide. Maybe an earthquake happened and it cracked. Anyway, he figured it was wide enough for them to slip through. So he runs back there. He pushes MIko in. And then he wedges himself, and it's a tight fit. I mean, he fears he's scraping skin off both stomach and back, but he gets in there and he works himself several feet back, and then the torchlight comes, and then two guys walk past. They're talking to each other. One of them's called Dink for some reason, and then they continue on. And then after a few minutes, he goes, MIko, we can get out of here. And MIko's not there. And then from further down, apparently the crack goes a ways. He hears MIko's voice, James, come on, there's a room over here. So James works his way through the crack to this room. Now the room is an old storeroom. No one's been in it for years. Dust is covering it, no footprints. And so they got to find their way out. And there's a stairway that leads up to a trap door. And so they go up to the trap door, but it won't budge. It just won't budge. And James goes, MIko, give me a hand here. And so they put their shoulders to it, and they push, and they finally work it open. A crate had been sitting on it. Apparently there's another storeroom up there. This one is used. So maybe the people who own this storeroom with that crate sitting on top of the trap door, maybe they never knew about this other one because the crate never moved. Who knows? But now they're in this other storeroom, and they work their way from the storeroom. They find a secret passage, actually. The way out of it is a secret passage and a secret door, and they move through it, and they're in a very narrow corridor, passage, cobwebs, dust, but there's footprints in the dust on the floor that says it's been used probably recently. Now, the passage itself is not completely dark. The other side has wood paneling, and there's some light getting through. So they work their way through the secret passageway until they come to a library. You know, one of those pictures with the eyes that you can, you know, like in Clue, right? So they work their way out of there, and Michael's kind of nervous because he can tell by the quality of the room that he goes into that there is some lord's estate. Now, lords are notoriously bad, angry about intruders, and Michael knows that they're found, they're screwed, right? So he's trying to get James to sneak out. Well, they go to the window and they see this big lawn area. So you know this is a really rich guy, probably powerful too. But there's a wall over there. Now near the wall on the inside, there's a tree growing, and one of the branches is fairly close to the wall. So if they get up in the tree, they could get over the wall. So James looks around. There's nobody, right? He says, "Okay, Michael." Pulls open the window. We're gonna run for that tree, over the wall, and then we're gonna get the hell out of here. Michael goes, "All right, we got it." And so they crawl out of the window and pause for a minute, look both ways. Nobody's coming. Then James says, "Okay, let's run for it." Okay, they take 2 steps when all of a sudden, from the window above them, some guy starts calling out for the guards. Michael looks up, and it's Lord Coleraine. Now this guy is really bad and vindictive. They couldn't have been in the worst place possible and be discovered trespassing. So they shot for the walls, right? That tree, and 2 guards come running. One of them has a crossbow bolt, fires it, misses them. Michael shimmies up that tree. He's over the wall. James, on the other hand, he takes his backpack and throws it over the wall and starts climbing the tree. Now, James is not Mr. Athletic. He's just not. He's a bookworm. He's more suited for the library than the track. Anyway, he works up that tree, scrapes off more skin, hits the wall, falls over, spam on the other side, grabs the backpack. Him and Michael run for it. And they work their way back to the Flying Swan Inn. And they go up to the room, and it looks like it's over. It's over. And James asks for 2... contacts the staff and says, "Hey, we need 2 tubs." Michael goes, "2? We need 2 for? You and me. You stink." "Well, I'm not the one who fell in. You smell worse than I do." Well, anyway, so the staff brings in 2 tubs, and then they take a bath. And then they have a meal together, and then Michael leaves for the night. And James goes to sleep. By this time, his hangover's over, so he's feeling better. A bath always makes him feel better, so he's not feeling too bad. He took out his parchment and made some notes. Anyway, Michael's gone. So Michael goes back to the shed on that guy's property, right? And lays down and goes to sleep. Middle of the night, the door bursts open. That man's standing there, right? Blue vest, crazy hat. "Michael, you gotta get up." What? That guy you're with? Lord Colerane's after him. You gotta tell him to get out of town. You got to get him out of town. You got to get him out now. "What do you mean?" "Just do it. Go tell your friend that they're coming for him and he needs to get out of town." So Michael's knows about Lord Coleraine, knows how vindictive the guy is, and he has no doubts in his mind that this is exactly what Lord Coleraine would do. So he shoots across town. He's running. He hits the Flying Swan. He doesn't check in with anybody. He shoots up them stairs. Bam, 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 on the door. James opens it, goes, "What? You gotta get out of here, you gotta get out of here. That guy whose estate we were in, Lord Coleraine, he's coming here. He's got guys, he's coming here now. He's gonna kill us both. We have got to get out of here." So James goes, "Okay, fine." He takes all this stuff and puts it in his backpack, and they go down the stairs. And when they hit the bottom of the stairs, they can see and hear that there are people outside the inn. A lot of several, you know. And so they duck under a table, and these people are they're talking amongst themselves, and Michael's kind of freaking out because he figures him and James are going to be dead. And then about 4 of them went up the stairs. 1 stays inside, and then 2, and then however many are outside. Well, they quietly work their way on the floor to the door. The door is open. These guys left the door open, and the person they left on guard inside the common room is at the base of the stairs, looking up at the progress of his fellows. He's not paying attention to the door. Why would he? He has people outside, right? So Michael and James, they sneak to the door, and James sees in the alley across the way there's 2 guys. And that's only two people he can see. So he creates this little orb thing, right? And he says, "Michael, close your eyes." Michael goes, "What?" "Close your eyes. Trust me." And so Michael closes his eyes. And then a few minutes later, or half a minute later, this blinding flash, boom. I mean, it is, his vision is still sparkling, even though his eyes were closed, right? So James says, "Come on, let's go." He came out there, and these guys are on the ground. They're screaming. They're holding their eyes. "What did you do to them?" "I just ruined their night vision," is all. Big flash. That's all it was. And so they raced down the street. They saw more people coming. They turned the corner, and they found themselves at the river. There at the river was a boat. Now, a little rowboat. He says, "Come on, let's get in the boat, and we'll go down the river, and we'll get out of here." So Michael goes, "Oh, okay." And they push it in the river. Some guy comes out, starts screaming about it. James says, "We'll buy it," and he throws his money pouch at him. The guy catches it, sees what's inside of it, shuts up, and goes back inside. Because there was a lot of money, and there were probably a couple gems too. So they're on the river, and then the bad guys come, and they're firing crossbow bolts at them. They get down in there, and the crossbow bolts are hitting the sides of the rowboat, and they're going down the river. These guys follow for a little bit, realize that the river is picking up a speed, and so they go and leave. Michael goes, "They're going to get horses. They're going to follow us for sure. They know we're on the river. They know where we're going to go." James found an oar and just starts rowing for all of his worth, just pushing him down the river as fast as possible. He says, "Well, the river's going fast. We'll do this, and maybe we can get out of here before they know what's happening." Michael goes, "Okay." So when they come to where the river crosses under the wall of the Bearn's defensive wall, there's guards above it. They get down, and James has Michael lay low in there, and they just are silent and still as the river carries them under the wall and out. And Michael's feeling pretty good right now because it's an adventure. They're surviving. He is worried about Lord Coleraine, but so far they're handling it. Now, the river carries them for quite a while until finally the sun starts coming up. And James starts heading to the shore. And Michael goes, "What are you doing?" "I'm going to let you out because you don't need to go where I'm going, and it's just going to be dangerous." And he goes, "Look, Lord Coleraine knows who I am. If I go back to Bearn, I'm dead. Those boys want me dead. He'll want me dead. I won't last a week. I'm staying with you. It's the only way I'm going to survive." And James considers it and says, "Okay, fine. But just lets you know it could be bad up ahead. No problem." So they go down the river, and 10 riders or so just going just like bats out of hell, right? And they see him on the river and they slow down. Then James goes, "Man, wherever we stop, they're going to get us." Well, Michael goes, "Well, I don't think there's any bridges for quite a ways. If we went to the opposite side now, we might be able to get away." James thought, well, that's a good idea. So James edges towards the opposite shore to where the riders are. And then they get off. All riders but one race away. I guess they're heading to the next bridge to come over. The last one's there, keeping an eye on him, making sure he knows where they are and where they go. And James is going, man, we're not going to get away. They're going to know where we are if this guy keeps watching us. And Michael goes, well, we could just head cross country that way. Yeah, but they're going to know which way we went. We're on foot. They're on horses. They're going to catch us. So James considered it a minute. There's an apple tree nearby. He goes over to the apple tree, picks an apple off. Michael goes, is this any time to start eating? We got to get out of here. Oh, this isn't about eating. He looks at the guy across the river, arcs his arm back, and throws. And this apple shoots faster than it should. Little boost of magic there. And sails unerringly, hits the guy in the head, knocks him off. The guy lays still. Michael goes, whoa. Yeah, come on. They get back in the boat. They go on the other side of the river, and then they head across country. He says, are you sure you want to be with me? Michael goes, oh, man, you bet. I mean, he couldn't think of a better person to travel with. And he says, all right. And that's how James and Michael got together. They headed across country, and 9 books later. Hope you enjoyed that. Okay, so for those who've read the Morcyth Saga, spoilers for those who haven't. Okay, so the guy MIko met who gave him food, that was Igor, all right? Now, in the 4th book, we talk about the Trail of the Gods, right? Basically, Igor has set into motion different things that James will need along the way. And MIko, being his companion, is one of them. And so, because he knew he would need a companion, so he set in motion, he put MIko in James's path, and then from that point on, it's history. Yep. I enjoyed that one. That was a pretty good one. Comment, let me know if you liked it. If you didn't like it, I'll do more. I enjoy these. And also for my readers, it gives them another perspective as to the story, the other side of it. Maybe I'll do one about Lord Coleraine. I don't know. If you have any comments about what you might want me to talk about, put them in the comments. I may do it. I may not. We'll see. Anyway, y'all take care. And if you haven't already, like the video, subscribe to my channel so you can be alerted for more. Y'all take care.